don't know the names of them.
I don't know the names of them.
So that I got to tell you, because I know some guys that grew up in the 60s, and that is a way to get to know you better. So if you say who your favorite Beatle is, that says a lot about you.
Really?
So like if Ringo Starr is your favorite Beatle, that says a lot about you. But if like Paul McCartney is your favorite, or John Lennon, it's like a personality test.
I also feel like it's super gatekeepy because like it's very popular to wear band T-shirts right now.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's in to wear old band T-shirts. And
Yeah.
so a lot of like younger people are wearing like Led Zeppelin shirts, like Grateful Dead shirts, and then someone's like, "Oh yeah, we'll name 5 Grateful Dead songs."
Right.
And it's like it's just a freaking shirt.
Right.
And I do like the Beatles. I like their music. I used to play Beatles rock band one summer every single day, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I know like characteristics of the Beatles. Like, I don't have time for that.
Nobody's got time to learn the Beatles' names.
I barely even know all my coworkers' names. Like,
Right.
please.
Well, we lost half our crowd in the meditation.
Really?
Not half. Well, I mean, yeah, people kind of got in their head.
In their head, had to jump up, go do something.
I hope not. I hope they went to the restroom. One of them's my ride.
All right. You might have lost your ride.
Did I do something wrong?
She didn't like the way you were breathing.
Oh. Well, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, she doesn't like my breathing, then she doesn't like me.
All right.
He's like, these are
Can you
the
just stop breathing?
Right.
Can you stop
I
breathing?
blame it on COVID.
Okay. Yeah, like I can't be with that guy. The way he breathes.
He's friends with the Buddhist. How dare he?
I'm outing.
Is Amber fine?
I know what your name.
I'll be right now. Well, she's in the restroom. I can't even.
She's
go
probably
in.
okay,
Yeah,
Robert.
she's fine.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is kind of.
Oh yeah, there is that couch, isn't there?
What is it?
There's a couch in the girls'
Couch.
restroom. Well,
Yeah.
before you get to the girls' restroom.
There's a couch in there, yeah. So I kind of wanted to broach a topic that's been on my mind and maybe approach it in a couple of different ways, and then hopefully we can lead to some group wisdom and some discussion around it. And so I'll give you a couple of examples, but the theme is this true? Can I trust my own thoughts? Particularly negative thoughts that go through my head, right? And so all my life I've suffered with black and white thinking, you know?
Thank you.
Black and white thinking. I can't do it, Robert.
The pillow's mightier than both of us combined.
And as I was saying earlier about meditation, you know, I didn't always have that insight to say or question, is this true? Is this true, right? And if I can't know 100% that this is true, then how does it make me feel to believe this? Okay, it doesn't make me feel good to believe this. Okay, so then who would I be without this story that I'm telling myself? And can I, if I don't know it's true for sure, 100%, and I don't feel good when I think this about myself or others, then what can I drop it? What is my life going to be like if I drop this story I'm telling myself about myself, my life, or other people, or this situation, right? So I've been working with that as a form of meditation. And I'm going to read this thing in here kind of about the Buddha, but, you know, when I first this is kind of like black and white thinking. When I first experienced Buddhism, I was going to the Shambhala Center, and the Zen Center started inside the Shambhala Center at that time, and I was just really kind of thinking, like, I'm all or nothing kind of guy. And so when I discovered that Buddhism was for me, then I must have to become a monk. You know, I must have to, you know, go all the way, and I have to learn and memorize all this stuff. And then when I met my Lama, you know, he was saying everything in Tibetan, so obviously I need to learn Tibetan, you know, and I need to learn all these prayers in Tibetan, and I need to learn all these practices. And then I started judging myself because I couldn't say them in Tibetan, and you know, I was just always beating myself up, you know. And it was the same thing when I was trying to live as a Christian, you know. It was like I could never live up to these expectations that I set for myself. And I would see myself, you know, judging others from a Christian perspective, but then looking at my own life and seeing that I wasn't living up to this huge expectation, and then I was just beating myself up all the time, and I didn't have the insight to say, is this true? Like, how does this make me feel? What would I be like without this story? And so then I dragged that into Buddhism, and then I started, you know, just a whole new way of judging myself and putting myself down and stuff like that, right? So let me just read this real quick. So it says, thus I have heard the Buddha was once staying in Shastravasti, Anapitika's garden, the Jetav Grove, with a community of 1,250 monks. Early in the morning, when the mealtime came, he put on his robe, he took his bowl, and he walked into the city to beg for food, going from house to house. When he had finished, he returned to the garden and took his meal. Then he put away his robe and his bowl. He washed his feet, and he sat down. So, like, just this simple act of Buddha getting up, you know, he's supposed to be this huge thing or whatever, you know. He started this whole community, and they said, like, there was, like, 1,200 monks there or whatever. And so he just gets up simply, he walks into town, he begs for his meal, he comes back, he eats, he washes his bowl, he washes his feet, he takes off his outer robe, and he sits down. Very simplistic, not much to it. Doesn't sound like he was overthinking a whole lot. He was doing exactly what all the other monks were doing. He wasn't telling them, you know, I'm your leader, go out there and serve me, bring me food, wash my feet. Nope, he was just getting up, doing exactly what they were doing, walking out, begging some food, eating, washing his bowl, and sitting down, you know. And so, you know, Autumn, your sister, actually has a shirt that says, wait, let me overthink this. And so that's the story of my life, you know. So I drag this overthinking into everything that I do. And so, you know, even looking into the scriptures themselves, it shows you that even the Buddha himself wasn't overthinking all this stuff that I was accusing myself of not doing, right? And so, as a meditation, I'm looking at every aspect of my life, my job, what I think about myself, my marriage, everything, and just saying, and playing with each thought, you know. Is this true? How does this make me feel? What would my life like be without this thought, you know? And so I have another like illustration around that, but I'm wondering if anybody makes a connection to what I'm saying. Anybody have any thoughts about how you could apply this to your life?
I applied it towards philosophy and religion starting out. Everything is certain, nothing is absolute with the exception of energy. So like, technically speaking, if you were to get really deep, everything is true, but is it absolute? Probably not. Because there's just as easily another thing that would contradict it.
So everything contradicts everything else when you try to get to what is absolutely true.
Well, what I'm saying is like I'm a pagan, someone else is a Christian. We could argue all day which is more absolute, but at the end of the day, both of them are certain because both of them are here in existence. Like they obviously exist because we could experience them even on a human level. So obviously they're both certain, but neither of them are absolute.
Thank you, Robert.
I feel like I resonate with that because it just makes me think like it could all be so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have to make everything so hard. I don't have to
So overcomplicating your life with overthinking.
Yeah, I do that with work. You know, instead of just showing up, clocking in, doing my job, clocking out, going home, there's always this other drama playing out in my head, you know. Oh, well, he gave her hours that everybody wants, he must favor her, or he's having her do this, so he must be grooming her to be the lead, or, you know, why did they go off and talk in the back room? Am I in trouble? You know? And then
I
you
know that.
create this whole black or white when, you know, he probably just took her to the back room to tell her what she needs to do next, you know, it didn't have anything to do with me, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about me. When I go to work and just do it, when I apply that simplistic attitude to work and I just show up and I do my job and I do the best I can and I don't beat myself up because I'm slowing down, you know, I'm getting older and I'm not as fast as I used to be. Like, you know, I used to be much faster and now I'm slower, and I'm slower because I don't want to make mistakes. Whereas before it seemed like speed was more important, but my job literally is giving other people medication. It's much more important to be accurate, you know. And whether your superiors who don't work in the pharmacy see that as important, you know it's important, you know. Money comes second when it comes to people's health, and so it's like
Yeah.
making sure that you keep it simple, you know. And it's definitely not easy to keep going back there. You know, I get into that mode sometimes where I'm doing really, really well, but the more stressful work becomes, the less simple I can keep it.
Yeah. I feel that way. Like I literally applied for this job, worked really hard for it, and then I get like annoyed when patients actually show up to their scheduled time that we called them for and scheduled them for, and I'm like, oh, God, like.
Why couldn't you
somebody
just be late?
cancel? And then I'm like, wait, you know, like, why am I complaining about this when, like, all I have to do is treat them?
It's like that old saying, slow and steady wins the race. If you don't rush into everything and you think about what's true in your head versus just going like, I'm just gonna run with it, go, you're always just gonna fail.
For me, I always think about like positivity and negativity as a practical matter. Is this practical in my daily life?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm feeling negative about how much I've been watching TV, well, what are the reasons of why I'm feeling it? Well, I have the expectation that I should be doing something more. I'm like, all right, we gotta choose. Like, do you want to like cut out TV or do something more meaningful? And it's at that point, it's more of a choice rather than an emotion.
Yeah, and you probably go through seasons, right, where
Yeah.
you don't even watch TV, and
Yeah.
you're really like doing, you know, I know you're into martial arts and things, and then, you know, you can probably say, you know, I need, maybe possibly I can give myself a break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And maybe I want to watch. Maybe I'm trying to do some self-care or not, you know, put so much pressure on myself. Who cares if I'm watching a lot of TV
Right.
now? Because I know in the future I'll probably get back into my practice or whatever.
Right.
I always
So.
try to tell myself, like when I start feeling guilty about like the way I spend my time, I always tell myself like, well, my body needed it at that
Mhm.
time, or like my body needed rest to lay on the couch and watch TV, or like my mind needed to not do anything and not do my laundry, and that's fine. That's what I needed, and I gave it to myself, and I deserve that time, and so I allow myself to spend the time
Mhm.
on it.
Yeah, there's a healthy balance, definitely. Oric knows I've been watching Arrow. And
Arrow.
I was truly
Arrow.
inspired by Arrow because he was on his own island for 5 years, and I was like, damn, I wish I had my island. Damn, I wish I learned this. And like I was gaining inspiration on how I could like like work on my martial arts training and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So there was definitely a purpose for it, but it got to the point where it was just about, I was watching it so much that it became more of an obsession almost.
Yeah.
Like I was spending way too much time on it, to the point where I wasn't even getting to my martial arts because I wasn't waking up on time to get to it.
Because you're staying up too late watching.
Yeah, so at that point, like, what's the, like, for me, in my mind was like, my point to watch Arrow was because one, I like Arrow, but two, mainly because I was getting inspiration and like, the energy in general. But what's the point if I'm not actually doing it?
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped for a while.
So, without getting too personal, we come here to discuss things like this, and put them out there, right? And so, I invite you to share, or at least think about what's one thing that you think about yourself right now, or what's one thing that you think about a certain situation that you could drop, that you can't prove that it's 100% true, and it makes you feel bad by thinking it. And so it's a story that you might be able to drop. Diane talked about, her job, right? So like you're gonna spend 90% of your life going into work. So if Diane learns how to drop that story, right? That's 90% of her life that just got better, right? And then Charlie, you said that like you overthink things in your life, right? And so if you could just drop that story, how much better could your happiness increase?
Well, I was telling them earlier, actually on the way here, I'm like, I want to challenge myself this week to not complain so much. I feel like almost anything I do, I have something negative to say about it. And so if I just like drop the narrative that like negative things are happening and I have something to be angry about, then my life would be much better, more positive. If I drop the narrative that like everything sucks, or there's always something wrong in everything that's happening around me, because there's not.
Sometimes it's hard though to step back and view it in that way, right? Especially when you're in it. It feels, when you're in it, it feels very real, like very, but I know sometimes just changing the language can change the way, and this is just a very generic, but when you say I have to walk the dogs,
Mhm.
right?
I get to.
But changing it to I get to, and that's just a very generic term, but the reality is that, I love our dogs, they're great. I mean, they're a pain in the ass because you have a responsibility to them. But the reality is I don't want them dead, so obviously I guess changing it to I get to is fine. And that's just a very generic thing, but there are other things, like
That surprisingly works though. Like,
It-
you
and it
just
really
change your language and
does.
like
When you're
that simple thing.
more aware of your language, and that alone makes the difference because you're aware that you're saying negative things. Kylie asked me the other day, I had a rubber band on my arm, and it was because I've been really negative lately. So I snap it, I snap it, I snap it, I snap it. And if I snap it like 4 times in a row, my arm is gonna tell me you're being a little negative today.
So every time you have a negative thought, you pop yourself with a rubber band?
Sometimes, yeah.
Rubber band.
Because at work, that's one thing that I've always got rubber bands on my arms because we're constantly taking rubber bands off of stuff. And so he even said something about the rubber bands I keep bringing home. But so it's a thing, when I'm conscious of it, I'll do that. And I'm not talking about, like flogging myself. I'm just talking about just enough to bring me back to the moment where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, So,
The monk stick.
yeah.
Wake up.
The Zen stick?
Wake up.
I was just thinking, like, when we were meditating, like, I have, like, all the ingredients to a happy life.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, all I have to do is choose happiness. And, like, it's way harder than done. But, like, what's even the point? Of, like, stopping myself from that happiness, that's crazy.
you can dissect everything. You know, I encounter people that say that they had a terrible childhood, and in some ways I could say the same thing, right? But you could look back and say, did I really? Like, there are things that happened, or there were situations, but was my whole childhood unhappy? Because I do remember going to the Kennedy pool every summer and hanging out with my friends and going swimming and all these cool things, going camping with my friends and all this stuff, you know. So that's very black or white to say.
Yeah.
One time when I was a welder, I worked 6 days a week. On Saturday, I worked half a day. And I told my supervisor at that time, I said, how come I'm always at work, but I'm always broke? And he said, okay, let's look at how many hours in the day. Are you really always at work? And so he broke down the time that I'm working compared to the time that I'm at home and time I'm asleep and then all this other stuff.
Weird supervisor.
Huh? What's that?
We were like, that's a weird thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a Buddhist thing to do, really.
But you know, whether he knew it or not, he was breaking that thinking. Is like you're not always here. You know,
It's,
it's
you're not always here, so be here more.
yeah, right.
Oh,
Can't
got-
you work on
got
Sundays?
12 hours to sleep? Seems like
Right.
6. Yeah.
That was his way of not giving me a day off or giving me a raise, probably.
Right.
But so I have this one last analogy, right? It comes from a poem, and I don't remember who the poet is. And this is not how the poem goes, but I'm gonna kind of change it up. But so there was a piece of ice on the top of this mountain, and this piece of ice started feeling itself kind of like melting. Climate change, you know. And so this piece of ice started, it said, I've been on top of this mountain for 1,000,000 years. I'm changing. Like, oh my God, I'm dying. What's happening to me? I need to somehow freeze myself. I can't. Oh, there goes my arm. There goes. And so the ice starts looking down, and there's a river way down at the bottom. And he's like, oh my God, I'm going to fall down this mountain into that river. I'm going to die. How do I stay ice? This is terrible. I can't. And he's like, I'm gonna die down there. And slowly but surely, there was nothing that this ice could do, and just turned into slush and slid down the mountain into the river. And then suddenly, consciousness, and the ice thought, I'm a river now. Holy crap, I'm a river. And then start having this river consciousness of, wow, like I water these crops, and like people drink, and then little kids swim in me, and like when people wash their clothes, and animals come, deer, and they drink from me. Oh, this is great. I'm a river. I'm a freaking river. How awesome is this? And then after several years, just enjoying the riverness, suddenly the river looks up and says, that's an ocean. Oh shit, I can't go into the ocean. I'm gonna die if I go in that ocean. Oh my God, I need to stay a river. I can't, and dumps into this huge ocean. And then suddenly this consciousness, I'm an ocean now. I'm an ocean, And so throughout this whole journey, this little piece of ice is like very black and white thinking, I got to cling to this. I got to hold on to this. This is true. If I'm not ice and I fall into the river, I'm not going to live. But it lets go, and it adapts, and it falls into the river. And then suddenly it's like black and white thinking again. I have to cling to this riverness. I can't become an ocean. I'm going to die. And you can play with the thought, is this true? Do I know that this is true? And then suddenly they reach the ocean. And so with each new incarnation in our lives, we're all going to go through scary moments, bad times, rough times. We're going to get sucked down into depression, sucked down in anxiety. But, with this thought of, this is a season, I'm passing through this. This doesn't define me. My thoughts don't define me. Nothing ultimately, according to Buddhism, is true. Everything is in flux, and there is nothing permanent. So playing with some of these thoughts and ideas, I can allow you to transition a lot easier when you're not putting that much, you know,
Expectation and pressure.
expectations into every single thing and every single thought. Does anybody resonate with that? Any thoughts around that?
So I played with a similar thought too. It's just like when I die, I'm going to be put into the ground. I'm going to decompose. I'm going to become the ground, eventually a tree. Like I'm going to feed insects and then become insects, and like I'm going to become nature. Like I'm going to be back with what I've always loved, is nature. And so, on a kind of separate, like almost like a side note, like the samurais meditated on death so that when they go back into war, they don't fear death, and therefore they can fight as if they're not afraid to die, and therefore like just fight better because they don't have that fear of.
They're not overthinking it.
Yeah, they're not overthinking it. They're not fearful. They're not with indecision. They're not hesitating at all. And so that's kind of where I stand with death as far as that goes, is because no matter what happens to me or how I die, I'm still going back where I want to go. Like I'm still going where I want to go.
Can't do anything about it, so you might as well not overthink it, right?
Exactly. And so I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it, and then when I go into the ground, I go into the ground, and I love it. Like that's just like, even if I don't have the consciousness that I do now, and then I go back into the ground, I'm still nature, and that's all that matters.
Thank you, Robert.
I feel like I interpret that story as like growing is so fucking uncomfortable.
Yes.
Fighting your demons, dissecting the person you are, and how to be a better person is so uncomfortable. And it makes you feel like shit sometimes, but then once you get past the uncomfortability and you grow from it and you become that river and then you become that ocean, you realize how great it is, and so the path and all the things that you had to put yourself through to get there was worth it.
I also think it resonates because I am an overthinker, like you guys. And you're ice and you're sitting there and you're like, oh shit, like the world is ending, I'm gonna die, you're having all these thoughts. And I think that's like a really great metaphor for like moving through your life. Because life is like seasons, so like things change all the time. And I am guilty of holding on and being like, no, like things can't change, everything's gonna be ruined, like I can't let go, I have to like force it to stay the same. But then ultimately you become the river and you flow through to the next season of your life and you realize like that change wasn't so bad. So like why can I not just like let go and accept it? Because I overthink, okay, well like now I need to chill on that.
Good way to look at it.
Ultimately, we gotta let go of everything, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, we ready to close with our chanting? So we're on page 7 after the formal Dharma talk.
I'm still flowing down the mountain.
Could you get on it, please? Or you a little too much right now?
So sorry.
We're gonna need you to arrive at the ocean.
Kyle, you okay?
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts or anything you wanted to share before we close?
No, that helped. I'm definitely going through, I was thinking kind of transformation stages of life.
Yeah.
And get comfortable with that. Because I definitely can't do the things I did when I was 18.
Right.
But sometimes I want to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Me when I went down a skateboard with somebody else down a hill,
Oh God.
thinking I could survive that.
Me when I tried to paintball. Jesus. That'll never happen again.
Come on, Kyle. You know everybody in the clubhouse would love to take a shot at you.
I know.
I'll shot at you. They're gonna make you stand up front.
Right?
Firing
I was
squad.
doing it for a 12-mile hike, thinking that we're 20 when we haven't been hiking in.
For never.
Yeah. Yeah. We were hiking, but it'd been a while, and we'd never done that long of a one, so
12 miles.
it was 12 miles total.
Y'all be carrying my ass down the
Mhm.
mountain.
It was,
Yep.
it was,
I'd be like, call the Forest Service.
yeah.
I'm not coming down this mountain
I'm not
unless I'm
coming
being on a
down.
chopper.
My knee was like, you are not 20 anymore. You're not even 30 anymore.
All right. Contemplation of the 10 perfecting qualities. May I be generous and helpful. May I be pure, virtuous, and well-disciplined. May I not be selfish. May I be strenuous, energetic, and persevering. May I be patient. May I be able to bear and forbear the wrongs of others. May I be honest and truthful. May I be firm and resolute. May I be kind, compassionate, and friendly. May I be humble, calm, quiet, unruffled, and serene. Discourse on loving kindness. Just as a mother would protect her only child, even at her own life's risk, so let everyone cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. Let our hearts of boundless love pervade the whole world, so that all beings without exception might be happy. Closing dedication of merit. If I have attained any merit by the results of this practice, may it be accredited to all beings everywhere. May they find the source of suffering and extinguish it. May they find the source of happiness and increase it. May all beings dwell in ultimate unalloyed nibbana. We'll bow to the shrine 3 times. And we will bow to our Sangha brothers and sisters with smiles of gratitude. Drive-by bowing. All right, guys. Well,
I couldn't help when he said smile of the Joker.